Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's a wonderful privilege and honour this afternoon to welcome two significant and remarkable old greys to this little gathering and to this little interview. Gentlemen who are celebrating their 75th anniversary. That must be some type of record, Andrew. I mean, 75 years out of school, which makes you both, if my calculations are correct, north of 90 years of age.
Correct.
And look at these fine gentlemen sitting here in front of us today, prepared to share some of their experiences and knowledge. So thank you for being here. Welcome to your 75th reunion.
Thank you.
May I ask, if I go according to the little script I've got here, what it's like to be back on campus celebrating this significant milestone? And significant it is. Would you like to kickstart the good advocate?
Yeah, Minister.
Whichever way.
Well, first inquiry of our impression arriving here for this reunion. In my case, it's not a 75-year interval between leaving and arriving. I've been lucky enough to come to the grave from time to time over 75 years. But I can say that easily the first impression is always the unique beauty of this school. I was born in it and grew up in it, and I suppose I'm not entirely dispassionate, but I'll just add one word, and that is I'm always struck by the beauty in which the surroundings, the playing fields, and any spare space, like flowers across the front of us, the whole place is a place of beauty.
And Mr. Lang, I think, for many people out there, they probably are not aware of the fact that you were born in the rectory.
I was.
You were born in the rectory, and certainly Grey has been part and parcel of your existence over all these years, and no one can question your passion and your pride that you have in the...
Now you mentioned I've been born there.
Yeah.
I'm eager to say that you, Mr. Crawford, were kind enough to invite me and my wife to stay in the bedroom in which I was born at the end of a school gala some years ago, which was great fun to do. Thank you.
Fantastic. And you, Mr. Murray, sir, your impressions, what's it like to be back on campus celebrating this significant milestone?
I think, to sum it up in a few words, is as we drove in at the gate, I looked up and said to my niece who was driving, what a beautiful school I was able to visit.
Yeah.
That's it.
Very, very special.
Yeah.
Indeed. Jayden?
I was saying some other lines are just very keen. It looks so nice. Yeah. And it says the surroundings, excellent.
We've been very blessed to be part of this wonderful institution.
Okay, it's not up to me. Sirs, you must have many memories of being at the grave. Which one stands out the most for each of you? Mr. Murray, you may start if you like.
The most striking memory,
Yes, sir.
after a lot of doubt, I've had to decide that it was being advised that I was the head prefect of the school in 1948. And I would add just one sentence to that my selection or appointment was so far removed from my own expectation in view of my record here that it made it a very remarkable experience. And that is my most notable recall, I guess.
I had to think about this quite a bit because I was torn between two things that really stuck out in my memory. One was the honour of our athletic captain of Meredith had left just before the end of the year, left school, and then I was, I think, the deputy head of the team, and I had the honour of going up onto the stage on speech night on the final day and receive this huge trophy, athletic trophy for Meredith. That was special.
Well done.
I just might mention that another one was on top of the tower. You could climb up still higher, and there I had a photo of me clinging very nervously to this thing. That was especially.
That was in those days, but let me tell you, they still do it today. They sneak up there.
I'm sure that's
and
so far away.
It's a remarkable museum up there in the tower. It's very, very special indeed. You both had remarkable careers. Advocate Andrew Lang, there must have been lots of people who feared you as you sat there, either defending them or challenging them in your legal career. Now, what aspects of school life do you think contributed most to the success of your careers? The bell that you hear in the background is all significant. That's some old guys ringing what they call the Hope Bell. That's their first visit back to the old school. So it's quite special to be part of this interview as well.
Unfortunately, the tower acting up.
No. Okay. So what would you say contributed the most to your working career, good sir?
I have this odd life experience of three experiences. One as a farmer in what is now Zimbabwe. And I can't relate my school days at the Grey in any way to that experience. But I then spent years as a law teacher and then more teaching as an advocate and judge. And what I can cast about in my mind to recall is that my English teaching by a wonderful teacher called Dudley Clear, I love to accord merit and success to that. But strangely enough, in our days, because we weren't allowed to get off the premises on the night when the debating society was held, our debating society was almost entirely people with borders, and we became quite energetic debaters, and perhaps in some very slight measure, debating at the Great Debating Society prepared me for court many, many years ago.
I've no doubt about that, Andrew. Your command of the English language has always amazed me, and being the eloquent gentleman that you are, so that debating will have stood you in good stead for your career, certainly. So,
I think what I would carry forward from what I read, which was sounded more directed at the educational part, was Cocky Waring was a maths teacher, and he was my geometry teacher. And while I was farming, a few times I had to make a shed or a building, and Pythagoras came back to me, 3, 4, 5, and then they had a right angle for the corner, and I could lay out the thing. So that, thanks to Cocky Waring. But the other thing is, Pop Lou, Mr. Lillis, who was teaching, these teachers were both shell-shock leftovers from the First World War that were teaching us. And Pop Lillis could teach me, I don't think there's a special way of teaching, but the way he taught just clicked for me, and I could understand these things, and both in biology and up to JC, up to Standard 8, and then in geography in matric. And that also made me I did a BCom course, but I insisted on doing a geography course there as well.
Okay.
I had an opportunity of flying to Buenos Aires, and I stayed over especially one night to go the next day over the Andes and to see if what Pablo had said was true. And there were little dams, natural dams, left by retreating glaciers within moraine deposits, and in the dams were a milky-looking water. I thought, that's it. That's what Crawford was about. And then over the mountain, I found the mountain streams also slightly soapy, and I even went to feel. You could feel that fine moraine silty.
Amazing, and it's so interesting hearing you speak about old teachers and the influence. So many years later, the influence you had on your...
Yeah.
I always used to say to my staff at the beginning of every year, you will never realize, ladies and gentlemen, what an impact you have on young people's lives. And that impact can be positive or it can be negative. And in our case, I hope it's always positive. And so many years later, you are telling us about these positive experiences and the impact that educators, that teachers had on your life. I think it's great. Oh. So this one to you, Mr. Lang. Andrew, you've written memoirs of your life. Where can we find these? Where can we have access to them?
I wrote one which we eventually published about a year ago, and the intention always was simply for my family and close friends.
Yes.
And so a very limited number were made and distributed in that way. I was left with some not long ago. Well, I certainly brought one to the Old Grey Union many months ago. But I had a few then, and I don't know why it seemed to me I should get them to Fogarty's bookshop in the belief that there is some account of life in Port Elizabeth in my youth, so I put them there. I still have half a dozen copies or more, and they can certainly be available to anybody unwise enough to want a copy.
Fantastic. Well done. That's great.
Mr. Murray, sir, you have remained quite active throughout your life. Are you still running? And what sports did you enjoy most at the grade?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I enjoyed most of them. I didn't get to the top teams, but I still enjoyed the sport. Although with athletics, it was something you could really work at and improve. And I would say possibly athletics, long distance running.
What about your gymnastics?
Yes, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But that's what wasn't my top, but that was exceptionally good too. That gym period was a good one.
I mean, even for us at school, we always love watching the athletics days. Yeah, that was fun.
I never had the privilege of climbing right up the rough to catch the ceiling. Some had done that.
Your achievements and your August cycle run has me stunned with awe.
I suppose I could tell you that. I've cycled 12 August tours through the years, and there towards the end, when I was getting into the easier age groups, I was watching this one fellow who'd be getting the prize for his age group every year. So I thought I must pick up some tips from him. And I had tried one race starting off flat out at the first, and halfway through I was very tired, and I was very lucky to finish that race. So when I got onto this chap's tail right at the start, I went slowly up First Rise is Hospital Hill, and I thought, when does this guy start cycling? He's going so slowly. But I followed him, up another quite a steep area, and we now got to the other side, which is a long, flat, slowly falling area. I thought, oh, there I go, and off I went. And didn't see him again, because I was now in his age group. And had to find at the end of the race that I'd actually won the age group race. And as the younger guys came in, they started pushing us out, and the second year I came second, and the third year I came third. And I got a message from my son. Welcome ending up on the winners platform 3 years in a row.
Fantastic. Yeah. Good memories.
Yeah, but anyway, I've enjoyed my cycling, and I've enjoyed hiking, and I've enjoyed park run. That's a wonderful thing for the nation's health, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
A free club, no charge for being timed, and you get your results at the end of the race, soon after the race, on your computer.
well, I've got over 20 years to go, but if I ever reach your age, I hope I'm still as fit and as well, so it's quite remarkable. There's a lot still the same here at the Grey, gentlemen, and some things have changed. But which Grey traditions do you today still value and cherish, and those that are possibly important to you? Andrew?
When I read this question first, it struck me that as a boarder, there were a number of traditions which were obviously restricted to boarding life, perhaps even to Meredith life, which wouldn't be appropriate here. So I tried to limit my answer to the school generally, and the one that occurs to me, and it occurs constantly when I watch sporting encounters, is the tradition that one behave with grace when you lose, and perhaps even better still when you win. And it's also perhaps a tradition I select because I wasn't ever naturally very good at it. That is to be gracious in defeat. And I think any school which places serious emphasis on gracious acceptance of defeat and of victory, I can't think of a better one than that.
Fantastic. Yeah. You speak about traditions and border traditions. I remember showing a father and his son. His son was going to come into the hostel. He was going to be admitted into the boarding establishment, and the father had an opportunity to walk in for the first time to the hostel with his son to have a look around. And we were going down the covered way. And the father happened to be a day boy when he was at school. And he stopped suddenly at a specific point. The hidden line along the walkway. And he said, "Son, you're now on your own. I'm not allowed to go beyond this point." And I said, "No, come along." He said, No. I was a boarder and nothing changes. I wasn't a boarder, so I stick to this tradition and I'm not allowed to go beyond this point. I said, "Good man." It's amazing how over the years those traditions hold true. You, sir?
I think something I learned here at school was the need for consistency. I could come with my efforts to improve a little bit in my results. I need to study not just for exams, but fairly regularly, get my homework done, follow up and scan through the stuff again. And that I think in life has been important. In marriage, in sporting events, anything we undertake. I think in business, in the fields I went into, that was very important. That consistency of keeping direction.
So I entirely agree with that. Even for us boys today, I think consistency is very important. There's a saying that it says consistency is key. I think if we can apply that to our lives, we can improve. Yeah.
I'm ashamed to say I couldn't hear that.
Say that again, Jayden.
Consistency is key. I've heard that saying before. And I believe that if we, as individuals, we can be consistent at school, we can...
Consistency at school.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Was one or was one not?
So it's important to...
Was it important?
Yes, sir, it is important.
And I was saying that I wasn't very bright, but by consistent study,
Yeah,
year by year, I was able to get through and get ahead of it.
yes, quite right.
In my studies.
I'm quite readily ashamed that I wasn't as consistent a student as I ought to have been. I could have worked very, very much harder. I was far too interested in sport. I desperately wanted to play better rugby, better cricket, and be a better runner. I could never live in the swimming pool without being in danger of drowning, but those were the things that interested me far too much. But in my last year, if I can come back to the matter of our staff, since Neil Crawford has mentioned, I was tremendously helpfully taught in my last year in matric, which got me to a first-class matric and winning the English prize. And that was Dudley Clare, who was our English teacher for many, many years. But a very self-effacing man called C.J. van der Merwe, who taught me Latin, and that needed a good teacher too. They were both wonderful teachers, and another man who went to a headship at another school was Friedel Seeberger, who taught me maths. And I have to mention that I was taught lower in the school by Cocky Warren, as Basil was, and I think in lots of ways he was a very good teacher, but he wasn't my good teacher. The one I had in my 2 matric years did me wonderfully in my teaching. So between mathematics and Latin and English, and they perhaps papered over the cracks of inconsistency and managed me to get through in the way I did. As far as Cocky is concerned, I don't know how quickly your time is up, but I presume that this sort of discussion hopefully looks for some entertainment.
Yes.
And Cocky Warren was a wonderfully delightful man, but of short temper. And on one occasion we had in our class, I lie, not in my class, he would never have been in 10A, but the person in question was a very, very good cricketer and a very good rugby player, but not a strong mathematician. And he suggested what he ought to do in a geometry theorem, and his teacher, Cocky Warren, not surprisingly said, and what structures do you have in mind? To which the response of my sportsman was, you can find it behind the door, which was a blackboard duster, which reduced our maths master to incandescent anger. There was a wonderful word in geometry. What would you, the challenge that you put to your pupil, which angle would you adopt, or something of that sort, which suggested to our friend to have a look behind them.
The door.
Can I-
What? Sorry.
Can I mention about something about Poppy? He'd been a team soccer player in his youth. I think he was an Englishman originally. And he had quite an injury to his little finger. And at the end of his lecture, he would say, "Watch the ball while I go through it." And he'd tap it and take it and hurt his finger. But anyway, that was his favourite way of ending his explanation. And in the 10A class, some cartoonist had written, "Watch the ball while I go through it," and watching this teacher diving through the blackboard.
Yeah. I'm sorry it took so long to make a mess of my story, but what was asked by Cocky was, "And with what object would you now proceed?" Oh, well, so what about the duster behind the door? With what object? Isn't that the sort of thing you'd be asked in geology?
Well done. No, those memories come flooding back. Fortunately, you speak about your interest in sport and not always maybe consistent, but you're a man who has mental fortitude. So, I mean, you know, it's lovely to have the mental capacity and the brains. So you were a natural, I'm sure, both of you, in your academic pursuits. So, fantastic. Jade?
Yeah, talking about academics and just in general school life, for the boys at the grade today, what advice would you give us when matriculating and embarking on our future journeys?
Me. I heard a very good, wise man, a quote from him. He said, "I hope I'll be living when I die." And I think that's rather good. And I think that's what we should aim at, to be active and busy with things, and to be unable to. So I think that would be one advice that I would give to boys.
Good.
All I'm hoping maybe of some help to say is that boys that are reaching the end of their school careers are in two classes. One, enormously fortunate to know exactly what they want to do with their lives. And the moment that is the case, then obviously you can make sensible subject choices at school and already be choosing sensible courses after schooling. But the other category, and I certainly was one of them at the end of school, of uncertain as to what to make as a career, I'm driven to suggest that if it can be done reasonably, to spend a year or even two away from education, to many such boys could be a huge advantage to discover what would be the right career and then pursue them that a little later. I recognise that nowadays there are so many pressures to get things done as soon as possible. And so the idea that you don't go, for instance, to university immediately for a year or two may be seen as a handicap in due course. But on my experience, young people, men and women, have done remarkably well by finding the right career by a gap after school. So that's all I can say there.
May I just add to that, please? Our speaker this morning said, pick a direction and not a career. Find what you're able to do and enjoy doing, and take that direction. It doesn't mean your career will develop from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we'll wrap it up there.
May I say just to you, Jayden, Yes, sir. Mr. Editor-in-Chief of the Grey Matter, to you and your editorial staff, committee, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Sondra. Thank you, ma'am. And it's been an absolute pleasure and privilege to be able to share a few thoughts and to be in the company, and I'm going to say, of two grey legends, Mr. Basil Murray and Andrew Lang. Thank you so much.
I'm humbled by that, but thank you. But I just want to add a PS. And you can edit me out, that's easily done. I was so impressed with the kids, the young boys, with a mature performance they gave at the city the other night. That really impressed me. We didn't have that kind of training. Oh yes, I had some music training. In our prefects, little recreation room we had at Meredith, Andrew, we would sometimes insist that Andrew plays the violin for us. He was quite a good violinist at that time, we thought. And he would play a few things from some fancy symphony or something, a few little extracts. And we'd clap and say, "Thanks, Andrew, can you play Sorry Marie?" So that was like the extent of our musical education.
Those musicians of ours are world class.
Yeah.
And you know, as much as I'm a sports fanatic, and it's important to me that the first hockey and the first rugby and all our sides win, when I listen to our musicians, I just sit there and swell with pride. It's wonderful.
Pride for the teachers, because the directors, the guy directing it, conducting, they were so into it, so enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I think any person would be inspired by it.
Yeah.